All right, welcome back. Surly Talk Sport, brought to you by the TAB, the only place to have a punt on the sport and racing action here in New Zealand. If you're not already a customer and you're keen to get yourself in the game, download their app or head along to the website www.tab.co.nz. I actually have my first Surly boost as well for the NRL this weekend. Of course, the Warriors season opener means that the old boosts are back for me. If you're not jumping on that, then you need to get a HIA because I have a feeling it's going to be a green tick all across your bet slips. So sign up now, get amongst the action, power plays, boosts, so many options to get on board with. And as always, please gamble responsibly, but really appreciate their support. It was a great week for me last week. Shot down to Queenstown for the NZ Open in the golf. Millbrook, what a joint that is. Wouldn't mind having a cheeky little condo there one day, or maybe even just more realistically playing a round of golf there, donating a Pro V1 or 12. She's a beautiful course. What a backdrop it was, and the stage was set for one of the great weekends. The golf was grouse. Something pretty unreal happened as well. Shout out to the bloke from the TAB, Carl Tiley. He's the content manager. Of course, I was down there with him. We're down to talk to the punters, get amongst a couple pro golfers as well. We had a bit of a putt off, and you'll be surprised at the result. That video should come out on their socials shortly. But Carl, he was a late call up to the Pro-Am, got in on a day's notice. Someone pulled pin late, so they said, Carl, mate, would you like to play? And albeit he pays off a 3 handicap, so he's a pretty handy golfer, but he flew the clubs down, got his mate down to caddy for him. Second hole of the day, hole in one. You wouldn't believe it. Absolute scenes. We're down on the tee box. She was an elevated green. He hits it with a 5-iron, hit it crisply as well. And then you just hear this bang, and we're all like, what the hell was that? Turns out he'd hit the pin on the full. Then the ball just dropped in the hole. Unreal scenes. Unfortunately, it wasn't the hole where if you hit a hole in one, you won a trip to Europe or a free car. But still, I think they took him up on a helicopter for a bit of sightseeing. So well done to you, Carl, mate. My first hole in one I've ever witnessed as well, so fair to say we cracked into a few Darren Frothiers that night. Also got to rub shoulders with some of the greats in New Zealand sports, your Izzy Dags, Mr. Fujitsu himself, Stephen Fleming, so that content should also be dropping over the next couple of days. Bloody good fun. She was a quiet weekend for me, to be fair. Feed up, sport on the screen, living the dream type of stuff, but ready to rip in this weekend. The body's feeling like a temple. That first game at Mount Smart tomorrow night, so the stage is set for what should be a doozy. Also, speaking of the Warriors, that Dynasty giveaway, 2 Heritage jerseys and 2 tickets to the TAB Lounge with your mate Surly as MC. She's gone viral. Can't believe the response. Great to see some of the fizz levels amongst the Warrior Nation. That gets drawn tonight, 8 p.m, so stay tuned to my Instagram, and hopefully tonight's your lucky night. How good. NRL Vegas, what a weekend it looked like to launch the competition. You can't think of a better way to do it. The bright lights of the Las Vegas Strip, 40,000 plus bums on seats as well. The atmosphere in the stadium, of course she's enclosed, so it sounded elite. There was plenty of noise being made in the crowd. And big rumours that the Warriors could be over there next year. If that is the case, you best believe I'll be there. And no doubt quite a few of you listening would be looking to make the trip as well. What scenes that would be. Fingers crossed it's the case. I think that alone, the lure of Las Vegas, would be enough to see the Prince of Penrose, SJ, sign on for another year. He was talking it up, saying that maybe this year isn't the swan song and he could be back in 2025. No man in their right mind is going to turn down a trip to Vegas, so hopefully that gets over the line. Also thought World Club Challenge, while we're spitballing, that should also be played there as well. I chucked it in a group chat on Sunday. I see since Guru, Bloke and the likes have also been saying that this should happen. It attracts the UK fans to Sin City, so it makes sense there. Makes it a bit more of a global occasion. It also adds a bit more prestige to that game, and it opens up the NRL to that UK market. Suddenly you'll have Super League fans paying a bit more attention to our game, and NRL fans paying a bit more attention to the Super League. There was also rumours the other week that the NRL is possibly looking to purchase the Super League, so that would be another massive box tick there. How good would it be though? The Warriors, the One New Zealand Warriors, taking on the Wigan Warriors 2025 after we both win the comp. Wars v Wars, you could call it the Sam Tompkins Shield. Winner gets the right to claim that Up the Wars tagline for the year and also gets bragging rights. Sign me up for that game. I think it would be a doozy of a clash and add even more of a finishing touch to what looks like already one of the great weekends. We were treated to two great games though, the first of which was a try-scoring fest. Didn't see that one coming. All the chatter during the week was how narrow the fields were, shortened by 6 metres in width, and then in length it was slightly shorter as well. The 10s were about 9.6 metres. The in-goals looked thin as fuck, but it was points galore, and Manly got the Chockies over the Bunnies in a strong performance from the Gulls, who I have to say look bloody fit and primed for a massive season this year. The standouts for me, Lukey Brooks, he looked great, scored a try, should have had two, unfortunately dropped one over the line, so Manly fans, you could say they got the full Luke Brooks experience right from the opening game. Extremely happy for him though, putting in a solid shift on debit boat. DCE, the old Brontosaurus, took over that second half of that game, played the conductor role perfectly, really had the lads all singing off the same song sheet, and again another strong performance from him. Tommy Turbo, that ballet training in the off-season has paid off for him. He was looking fleet-footed, fast, powerful, strong, charging into contact, extremely positive signs there, and fingers crossed he can stay fit for the rest of the year. As usual, Manly's hopes rely heavily on him, although they do appear to have a bit more depth and a bit more strike across the paddock this year. So great to see Turbo out there doing his thing. Hamole Olakauatu, that bloke is origin bound surely. He must have been within a bee's dick last year. This year he's really knocking down the door. Strong, large and in charge. He's a weapon whenever he gets his ball in hand, and on defence he just rattles rib cages as well. Can't wait to see him in the beautiful sky blue under Madge Maguire, and old Hamole looks set for another massive year. For the Bunnies, I thought Latrell looked strong. He was bumping off defenders, a hissing try assist, a beautiful long cutout ball of doom, and then he scored one himself as well. He was giving it the big ones after conversions when he banged them over, talking to the crowd and whatnot. I would like him to tone that down a little bit because often it doesn't age well. And again, the Bunnies, another game for them where they shoot off to a great start and then they just can't defend their leads. Defence again looks to be a real problem for them this year. They were missing a couple of big names, so you can excuse it a little, but slightly worrying signs for Jason Demetrio and co and the lads at South Sydney. In the second game, the Roosters, they got the better of the Broncos, dominated them through the middle of the park, and as a result, they got the Chockies. They bashed that Broncos 4-pack into submission, and you have to say, as predicted, geez, did the boys from Brizzy really miss Flegler, Capewell, and Paliasea through the middle. Looking a bit light there, and the boys from Bondi certainly made them pay. Standouts for me, I thought Joey Manu was insane, an absolute freak. Ultimate activation of Bluetooth, got the hands free. That offload has to be one of the best balls I've ever seen. Pure wizardry, Harry Potter type of stuff. It's a real shame that he's going to go to French rugby purely because the game and the Kiwis will miss him so much. I do rate his loyalty, but he's one of the great talents going round, and the weekend was another example of that. James Tedesco, he looks back to his menacing best, high work rate, big ticker, and looks like he's ready to prove the naysayers wrong again this year. Walshy, I thought he looked dangerous for the Broncos, but again, he just has that play where he chances his hand. It's either rocks or diamonds. Sometimes you wish he could taper off a little and just take the safe option. That's the way he plays though. Some nights it's going to work for you and some nights it's not, but I thought every time he got the ball, he looked like a weapon. Have to say, this game, it was really dampened by that Spencer Leniu incident as well. Rumours are they had some words at the hotel, the boys too, following that, and fair enough. There's no room for racism in our game. I'm all for sledging, a bit of friendly banter, maybe you and your mate on the other side, you got a bit of a relationship where you can just chip away at them, but racism, that is fucked, well and truly crossing the line. No place for that, and if it's true that he did call Ezra the M-word, then I would love to see the NRL come down hard on him. I think Vossi was suggesting 8 to 12 weeks would be a fair punishment. This is a real opportunity for the NRL to stamp this out of the game, give him a big punishment, and then players will refrain from doing actions like this in the future. Good to see Latrell and Cody Walker come out in Ezra's defense defence as well. He was apparently pretty upset post-game, in tears in the shed, so fingers crossed he's doing all right. Again, no place for that at all in the greatest game of all. A couple things to touch on off the field from the weekend. There was a real lack of scandals. I had high hopes for this one. I even mentioned my 3-2-1 last week, and I named Cheese as the guy to keep an eye on. I was calling for a body cam to follow him through the Las Vegas Strip. What a waste of time that would have turned out to be. Turns out he had a wholesome dinner with his parents for his mum's birthday. That wasn't on the cards for me heading into this weekend. Looks like Matty Johns and the media certainly got about their work. The Hello Sport lads, they were bounced out to another level, but it looks like the boys behaved off the paddock, so no doubt the lads, the big wigs at the NRL, will be extremely pleased to see that. The second talking point I wanted to touch on for off-field was the game day fits that the Bunnies did at Captain's Run, and I'm all for this. I think it adds a real another factor to the game. We see the NBA and the NFL do it so well. The Bunnies, they did it to Captain's Run. Understand there's a few legalities around the NRL with game day and what the players could wear, but I really enjoyed seeing these photos from the Chooks where Kolomatangi, who looked like he went full Eshe, loved the fit from him. He probably had to take home best dress. Tane Milne, he went full Kiwi, shirtless, track pants, turned his Bunnies training top into a do-rag. A classy touch there from him. Jai Arrow, he rocked up his Reg Reagan, again a classy touch and a real tribute to the great man Matty Johns. Bring back the biff. I think the game needs more of this. I would love to see everyone get behind it and bring this in. The Warriors, I think they could pull this off for sure. Straight away, you imagine Adam rocking up draped head to toe in Versace or Gucci. He's a stylish bloke. If you saw his fit at the Dally M's, then you know he wouldn't disappoint. Lukey Met, he's already said he's keen, got plenty of swagger about him. Jazz and Tomato, they'd probably rock up in some hunting and fishing gears, maybe even bring a rod or a spear gun along as some accessories. Say less. So this is something the NRL should really look to explore in the future, in particular if they're trying to target that American market, because those game day fits, it's such a big part of the sporting culture over there and could open up avenues for players both on and off the field to explore even further, which I'm all for. But heading on to this week, and of course we've got a stacked round. This is round 1. Last week they were calling her round 0. It's all a bit confusing, but the feature games for me have to be the Friday night doubleheader. We get dished up 2 doozies. Warriors taking on the Sharks and the Storm taking on the Riff. Then on Sunday, Finns vs Cows. That is set to be a lip liquor as well. In terms of the Warriors game, geez, some massive calls made by coach Andrew Webster, as you would expect. I mentioned the other day that our depth, we're like the Mariana Trench, the deepest ocean in the sea. So much talent available for selection. 1 to 30, we could roll out all sorts of combinations and still get the job done. And this week is a great example of that. Unfortunately, Marata Niokore, he is out with a slight fracture in his foot. I've seen some varying timelines. Some are saying a couple of weeks, some are saying up to 6 to 8. Fingers crossed it's more towards that lower end and we can get the big fella back, because he looks so impressive in that bench propping role against Redcliffe. I feel sorry for the bloke every time he really starts to hit some form. He either suffers a slight injury or gets done for suspension. So fingers crossed this is him getting it out the way early in the season so he can play a massive role and be there on grand final day when the lads lift the trophy. Some other big calls. No room for Jazz Tavanga on the bench. Lukey Metcalf, he wins the battle to wear the 6, which I rate a reward for his preseason form, because shit, has he looked sharp. Tommy Ale and Bunty Afoa, they come in on the interchange to probably give us a bit of size, to be fair. I noticed the Sharks, they've rolled with 4 big bodies off the pine in Finucane, Williams, Rudolph and Hazelton. That probably suggests that Cam McInnes, their skipper, will move into the 9 role to give Blake Brayley a spell at hooker, but certainly Craig Fitzgibbon signalling his intentions that he intends to target us through the middle. I say bring it on though. Our middle is strong as fuck, and if these guys are willing to truck nut into AFB, Barnett and Tohu all day long, then I wish them all the best. But let's run through the team now. 1 to 17. We've got Tain Tuapiki at the back, Dallin, the flying mullet, and Montoya the destroyer on the stings. Rocco and Roger in the centres with Lukey Met and the Prince of Penrose in the halves. Adam Whanua, Blake and Barnett, they're your props with Egan Park at hooker, Jacko Ford, Curdy Capes and Tohu with Freddie, Tommy Ale, Bunty Arfoa and Dylan Walks. Adam Pompey in jersey 18, interesting to see that. Thought a Jazz or Tamaire, maybe even a Chanel would push for that just purely on the utility factor, but good to see Wets there. People are quick to forget he played every minute of every game for us last year, an absolute soldier. Then we've got Jazz Tamaire, Ale Leotoa and Jacob Laban on the extended Remu. What it also means is our New South Wales Cup side is absolutely stacked. Chanel and Tamaire in the halves, Ale Leotoa in the centres. Then you cast your eyes across that forward pack. Big bodies galore. Tanner Stowers-Smith, Jazz Tavanga, Laban, Kalani going. I'm genuinely dead set sure that if this team was in the NRL and took on sides like the Tigers and the Dragons, that we would come away with the W. What a luxury that we have this year. An exciting year for Warriors fans in 2024. Overall, extremely excited about this game though, of course. It is the round one home opener for us this year. Friday Night Lights at Penrose Go Media. She's set to be packed. I think it's almost sold out already, so the Warriors Nation is well and truly getting behind the boys. In terms of the keys to victory, obviously shutting down Hot Boy Hines and Tricky Trindle in the halves is going to play a massive part in determining the result of this one. Britain Neokora, he is also another player that we need to keep an eye on, one of the best line runners in the competition, but I've no doubt that our goal line defence is going to be up to it. We proved last year the systems are much improved in that aspect, and it was bloody hard to cross the chalk and score 4 points on us. So I'm expecting much more of the same this year, and I think we are in for a big shift from the boys. I'd love to see Roger play a bit more of a roaming role. We saw how deadly he looked in that final 20 to 30 minutes of that second trial once he moved to the back. The more times he can get his hands on the Stead roll out the goosey into left foot, break some ankles, then it's only going to prove to be positive for us. Hopefully SJ can put on a clinic. Wade Egan Park, CEO of Ruck Manipulation, he can continue to do what he does and be the best 9 in the comp, in my opinion. Lukey Met, I can smell him for a meaty, and we'll touch on that shortly, but he plays a big part in the Surly boost. And then through the middle, this is where I think we can really get them. If you look at the likes of their propping stocks, Kafusi and Royce Hunt up against Barnett and AFB. You got to remember AFB, he's going to the Sharks in 25 as well, so he'll be looking to prove that he's the alpha dog out on the paddock and show Sharks fans what they can look forward to next year. So overall, I'm expecting a reasonably comfortable win. I'm not saying 13 plus because the Sharkies, they are a quality side. And saying that though, we have won the last 5 straight games at Mount Smart Stadium, and in the 2 times we played the Sharks last year, we put on a combined 72 points. So fingers crossed that momentum continues. One of those wins resulted for us winning a Holberg Award as well. So round 1, Friday Night Lights at the Fortress, we simply don't lose. I'll see you out there, set to be one of the great nights. Hopefully the weather plays a part as well and we get the job done. Following that, Storm taking on the Panthers in what is going to be an extremely interesting game. If you look at the Storm side on paper and the forward pack in particular, they don't exactly send shivers down your spine. No Nelson Asafa-Solomona, and in a big news as well, Cammy Munster, he's set to be 50-50 and said he could pull pin as well prior to kickoff. Maybe that has happened by the time you're listening to this. So if there's no Munster in this game, that would be a massive loss, and I can't see the Panthers going down to the Storm. The Storm, of course, they haven't lost a round 1 game since 2001, and they love playing at Amy Park, but in the Panthers, they meet a pretty formidable opponent who will still be stinging off the back of that World Club Challenge loss. They get Luai back in the mixer too, so they're rolling out their best possible 17, and I'll be backing the lads from the Riff to get the dub and end that impressive round 1 streak. And then the final game I highlighted, like I touched on before, was the Finns taking on the Cowboys. I think this one's going to be incredibly tight, and there's a bit of value money around the Finns as well, which I'll touch on that punting segment. But typically, the Finns, they start strong in round 1. Wayne always gets his boys up early. They pulled off the upset against the Chooks last year. I'm expecting the Cowboys to be much improved this year, but keep an eye on that game. She's a bit of a Queensland derby too, and I think that one should be an absolute doozy. So can't wait. Full schedule of NRL games back on our TV screens. Park up on the couch, crack open a few better beers, and sink your teeth into the footy. There really is nothing better. See you at Mount Smart. How good. Jumping over to the 15-man code, and of course Super Rugby, the Super Round, went down over in Melbourne on the weekend. Straight away, I have a bit of a bone to pick though, so I thought I'd get it off my chest at the start of this segment, and that is, why are the All Blacks resting bodies already? They forced the Blues on the weekend due to minutes restrictions and load management to rest Rieko Ioane and Finlay Christie. To me, this seems like crazy stuff. Their last game was 4 months ago, and already you have two of the biggest names for the Blues sitting out games. If you wonder why people aren't tuning in massive numbers and not getting bums on seats, it's due to things like this. Players want to see the best players going at it week after week, hammer and tongs. If you're going to restrict the amount of minutes that the best players in the game can play, then people are going to vote with their eyeballs. So personally, I'd love to see this abolished. Obviously, the teams can implement their rest times whenever they want. The Blues chose to do it against the Landers in week 2, which is a bit disappointing. I guess they wanted to get it out of the way, but I don't think this should apply at all. Guys like Shooter and co, they actually fall under this minutes restriction as well. He played one game for the All Blacks. He's pushing to make the squad, and I'm sure he wants all the time in the saddle that he can get. So Razor and co, if you're listening, which no doubt you are, let's get rid of this minutes and load restriction. Get our top players playing more frequently. It'll lead to better form for the ABs as well. Of course, if guys are managing niggles and injuries and things like that, that's a completely different kettle of fish, but I don't think we should be restricting guys' loads in week 2 of the competition. Seems like crazy shit to me, but of course the games that were actually played dished up some great spectacles to watch as well. The big talking points, the Crusaders, back-to-back L's for them to kick off the competition for the first time since 2014. You love to see that. As a fan that wants to see something different this year, I'm sick and tired of the Crusaders winning it every year. So many changes to their core nucleus, no Whitelock, no Richie Mo'unga, no Cody Taylor, and I think arguably the biggest change is probably the introduction of Rob Penny. I think if you had those players there, then it wouldn't be highlighted so much, but when you go and change the core nucleus, plus change the way you want to play and the voice that is directing the game plan, then it can have a significant effect. I'd be interested to see how they would have started the year if Razor was at the helm. He might have got around some of these younger guys a bit more and built up the confidence a little. By all accounts, that's where Razor does his best work, in the locker room, really bonding with the boys. Nothing personal on Rob Penny. I'm sure he's a great coach, but it would just be something interesting to note. They take on the Drua this weekend. They haven't lost 3 on the trot since 2013. Over in Fiji, set to be horrible weather conditions. Could it happen? Look, I'm certainly starting to think the Drua will pull this off and repeat their heroics from last year. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they continued to flex their muscles, pumping the Brumbies. They've now beat the Crusaders and the Brums in back-to-back weeks. D-Mac put on a clinic. He was the best player across the whole weekend, well and truly showing that he deserves to wear that All Blacks 10 jersey. He's excitement galore, always chances his hand, similar to like a Reece Walsh, but actually knows when to turn it on and when to turn it off, which I think Walshy could learn from. But D-Mac, in fine form, tearing opposition defences to shreds. Shooter thought he was really strong, menacing at the back, injecting himself with his pace. And Etienne Nanaisatoro, he's had a great start to the season. Many people forget he was actually signed to the Warriors back in the day, and rumours are his footwork is still some of the best that the club has seen. He snapped SJ's ankles in a one-on-one defensive drill, so it's great to see him going good guns. He could be a surprise one to wear a black jersey. They've still got guys like Joshy Lord, Amoni Narawa to come back to, and when that All Blacks minutes restriction does come to hurt them, instead of resting a D-Mac and having a massive drop-off, they can bring in a guy like a Josh Ioane, who is more than a capable 10. The Chiefs flexing their depth and showing that they are the genuine competition frontrunners to take it out this year. Moana, that game against Drua, that for me had to be the game of the round and the game of the season so far. She's only early doors, but that one will prove tough to beat all year long. The Battle of the Pacific, so much pride, so much passion. The physicality on display was exceptional. Two sides that are willing to roll the dice and play some entertaining code. That right there was the perfect billboard to how rugby should always be played. The Drua, they came back with a hiss and a roar towards the end, scored some great length of the field tries too, but in the end, it was the Moana who got their first win over their new rivals. That's a game I would watch every week if it was dished up on our TV screens. And good to see Tana Umanga getting the best out of this Moana side. I'm almost pretty certain now they will not finish last in the competition this year, which is a great improvement for them. They're going to be competitive and they could well pull off a fair few upsets. And then finally the Canes, they pulled off that golden point dub in Geordie Barrett's 100th game. I mentioned finally there, haven't even touched on the Blues. I'll dip back onto that shortly, but Geordie, unfortunately, copped a red card, so it wasn't quite the celebration he had hoped for. I noticed his parents had flown over for this one as well. Smiley Barrett, he had his rig wrapped in a beautiful vintage Swirls jersey, so well played to him. Hopefully someone did a bit of a semen extraction and they can bring through some more Barretts in the future. The big fella, geez, he must be made of something special. But well done to George, raised the bat on the 100th, and well done to the Canes, who stayed in the fight, looked like they were down and out at times. In the end though, managed to score, push it to golden point, and then score a try in there to get the dub as well and remain undefeated, which sets up a beautiful clash for this weekend up against the Blues. Speaking of Blues, they got the dub against the Landers, of course. A good win for them. 15 on 15. This game was actually really tight, and I would have been keen to see how it played out if that had remained the same. Unfortunately, Jacob Ratamatavuki Nepkins, he copped the yellow card just before halftime. The Blues scored almost straight away on the hooter, and then they scored again straight after oranges, like good sides do. But that's when it was 15 versus 14, and those two tries, they took the game away from the Landers, to be fair. Reece Patchell, the old Welsh ginger, he's got to have the most raz I've ever seen from a Welsh first five. Flick passes, grubber kicks, the bloke can do it all, and his combination with Folau Fakatava looks like it's really going to thrive this year, which is great signs for the lads from Dunners. Big test for them this weekend up against the Tars, who will be fired up after pulling off that victory. So let's roll through to this weekend in the Moana. They kick us off taking on the Rebels tomorrow night. I was interested to see the Moana, they're underdogs in this one. I'll well and truly be chucking them in my multis. Following that game, Tars taking on the Highlanders, that game we just briefly touched on. A big one for the Landers. Probably unfortunate last week in many aspects. Can they go over and knock off the boys from Bondi, who will well and truly be riding a wave? Perhaps they spent the whole weekend in Beach Road celebrating one of the great establishments there in Sydney, and they could catch them a bit dusty and pull off the dub. Super Sunday then dishes up 4 games, the rest of the round all on the one day. Love that. You got the Drua versus the Crusaders, 2 o'clock, Arvo footy, say Leslie Rayasi. I mentioned before the conditions, they could prove to be tough. It's meant to be 32 degrees, 71% humidity and thunderstorms, so it's fair to say they've rolled out the welcome mat for the lads from the Garden City, the Drua. They'll be used to these conditions. It's their first home game this year, so no doubt the fans will be up in the trees, giving it the big ones, doing anything they can to get bums on seats to this game. I'm going to tip in the Drua. Again, they're underdogs, but I just like them at home to pull this one off and make the Crusaders go 0-3 for the first time in a long time. Brumbies versus Force, who gives a fuck there? Canes versus the Blues, that is a doozy. Feature match for this week, 7:05 p.m. kickoff. I'm recording this on a Wednesday, Arvo. Unfortunately, teams haven't been named. This is prior to team naming Wednesday, but I'm expecting Geordie Barrett. He's going to be out with suspension. He's facing 4 weeks, appealing it. I think he might get 2 or 3, so keep your eyes on that prediction. But if there's no Bitcoin Barrett, then I think the Blues will be too strong. They'll go down to Wally and knock them off in what should be a bloody tight game. Some great matchups all across the park, so this one is a spectacle you don't want to miss for sure. Hopefully the lads can contain Roygaard. He scored a double meaty last week. Peter Lakai, Asafo Amoa, Ruben Love. Still so many threats in that Hurricanes team, and maybe, just maybe, we see the return of TJ Piranata off the Remu as well. For the Blues, I expect them to bring everyone back. They won't be mucking around this week, and can Hoskins Sotutu keep up this form? He's been exceptional. 5 tries in 2 weeks. His ball carrying, to be fair, had never been the problem. It was more his work rate around the park, but it appears he's had a real final rocket shoved up his backside. His work rate has been phenomenal. He's been the first one getting up off the deck, back into the D-line, marshalling the troops around the paddock. So great to see him in fine form. An incredibly talented footballer. Used to play first five. He's got the full school set, a great boot on him as well. And I've been incredibly keen to see the player that Razor could mould him into. So fingers crossed he can keep that run going. And then to round us out, back-to-back barnstormers. The Reds taking on the Chiefs in Brizzy. Let's get busy. The Chiefs looking to remain the competition's top side. The Reds, they showed last week that they're up for it. They've got a bit of fight about them, and they now appear to be the best Aussie side in the competition. So this will be a great indicator as to how strong they are. So another great weekend of Super Rugby. Looking forward to that game, and there's a couple doozies there to sink your teeth into. Should be grouse watching. Finally, before we move on to the rugby, just wanted to shout out as well to one of the lads off overseas at the moment, ripping and tearing on his sabbatical and playing some great code. Is of course the best player in world rugby in my humble opinion, Adi Savia. He's over in Japan taking the piss, running amok. He was up against Bodie Barrett and Aaron Smith's side on the weekend, so a quality football team. But listen to his stats from that game. 4 tries, 16 defenders beaten, 4 line breaks, 179 run meters. That is ridiculous stuff. A number 8 scoring 4 meaties. A couple of them were really razzly too. Even did one where he dove over the line backwards. Exceptional stuff from ASAV. The Kobe Steelers, they proved way too good. Gave them a good old-fashioned schlongen, 57-22. It's a good comp to watch, that one. I think there's one game a week on TVNZ on demand as well. So if you find yourself looking for something to watch during the weekend, a bit of downtime between all the sport that tickles your fancy, tune into that. Plenty of Kiwis and Aussies running amok over there. And well done to ASAV, an absolute weapon. Weekly wrap time now, and unfortunately the Black Caps just way out-muscled by the Aussies. Shit, do I hate losing to them, but boy are they a quality cricket side. They towed us up in the T20 series, and it looked like the Test series could well be going the same way. Unfortunately, we've suffered a couple injuries as well, so it looks like a bit of a B-side could be trotting out for us. Good to see Rashin, the Shin, scoring some runs with Rimu in hand, but overall, Aussie, Steve Smith and co, just way too good. We will move on. Shout out to the Breakers. Unfortunately, their season came to a premature end as well, but it was a heck of a year for them. They just fell short of the playoffs, but well done to them in a way, because they had a shocking start to the year. They had a ton of adversity, plenty of injuries, lots of things not going their way. Referees every week not calling fouls against them. Much like the NRL, of course, she's an Australian competition, so we don't get any rubs of the green, but we certainly had our backs against the wall and we stood tall. Parker Jackson Cartwright, he was insane this year for us. A sad way to see Abercrombie going out a loser like that, unfortunately not making the playoffs, bowing out in the play-in, but what an absolute goat he is. His services to New Zealand basketball and the Breakers in particular, second to none. No doubt he might be holding a clipboard on that bench next year. He'll certainly still be involved in the game, and what aspect we're still to see. But shout out to you, Tom Abercrombie, mate, an absolute legend of the game. Sad to see him go out like that, but in a way it was a bit fitting. No quitting the lads, played right down to the final buzzer. LeBron James, speaking of basketball, of course he racked up an unreal milestone earlier in the week, 40,000 points, the first player in NBA history to do so, which makes sense because he is the highest point scorer ever in the NBA. An absolute freak of a human, another accolade to add to his already impressive CV. He's just done it all. Long live the GOAT, showing no signs of slowing down, and it did get me wondering whether anyone would ever take over this amount of points. Certainly in my lifetime, I don't think so. Just the longevity of the career. He's played 20 plus years now in the NBA. I can't see another player doing it. Maybe a Luka, someone like that who scores at a high clip every game, but I don't think Luka's going to be around for as long as this. So well done to the GOAT. Perhaps he set an unbreakable record. I look forward to watching the Young Bucks of today chase that down, but long live the King. And a special shout out as well to Victor Wembanyama, mentoring Young Bucks. Sharks. What a tear he is on at the moment. Over 190 blocks he's racked up in his rookie year. An insane talent. His last 2 months post-Christmas have been unreal. Carrying the Spurs on his back. And geez, he looks every bit a true generational talent. It'll be interesting to see how they build the roster around him over the next couple years. Pop and Co, they're telling people to be patient, that this is a rebuild, but I get the impression Victor, he's pretty keen to win extremely soon. Lots of rumours that Trae Young could be a potential target for the Spurs to go out and get, so watch this space. Would love to see that combo, although Victor, he's shooting 43% from 3 as well, so he's not just a presence in the paint, he's got the handles in the all-round game to do it all. How would pair up with Trae? That remains to be seen. Ice Trae, he's a pretty greedy and selfish player, but I'd be keen to see it happen nonetheless. Moving on to the boxing, geez, we're set for a massive card this weekend. This one actually caught me off guard, didn't realise it was happening this soon. The media build-up has been pretty minimal, at least in New Zealand. I see the lads are now in Saudi Arabia and really starting to pump it up. But of course, our man, Big Smokin' Joe, Joseph Parker, ex-Burger King sponsored athlete, he is taking on Zhang for the WBO interim heavyweight title. Then following that, we get treated to a double-header. Anthony Joshua taking on Francis Ngannou. That Parker-Zhang fight, that is set for 11 a.m. morning our time. What a day of sport that is. What a 24 hours if you factor in the Warriors. Joshua Ngannou, that'll go down at 12. Really looking forward to watching these fights. Big Bang Zhang, he's got a record of 26 with just the 1 defeat and the 1 draw. 21 of those 26 wins has come by KO as well. So this bloke, he's no joke. He presents another massive challenge for Joe, much like Dejounte Wilder did, to be fair. I saw Fury saying thinks that Parker's just going to pick him apart and outbox him like he did against the Bronze Bomber. That's enough for me. I'll be following in the Gypsy Kings predictions, and I think Joe Parker, he's really turned a corner, got the perfect training camp now, the great coaches and trainers. He knows what he's doing, looks in great shape as well, so fingers crossed he can make this back-to-back big wins. I was interested to see as well, Zhang, he's got an automatic rematch clause in his contract, so this won't be the only time we see this fight go down if Parker is to come away with the chocolates. Then following that, Ngannou versus Joshua, anything could happen in this one. Was really impressed with Francis's boxing debut against Fury. He dropped him, and many said he probably actually won this fight, so anything could happen here. 2 big boppers, there'll be a shit ton of muscle in the ring. If you're watching this in HD, then it could be quite intimidating through your TV screens. So I'm keen to see how this one plays out. Saturday morning biffs, get it into you. Could we see the double upsets? Geez, that would rattle a few cages and throw a cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak. Good to see heavyweight boxing, though, back towards the pinnacle. Both these fights should be absolute doozies. Punting time now, brought to you by the legends at the TAB, of course, headline sponsor for this pod. If you're not already a TAB customer, make sure you download the app, head along to the website, sign yourself up. There's promos galore. Head along to the Punting Lounge on the Apple website to see them all, but there's something for everyone. Always gamble responsibly, but shout out to them again for supporting the Surly pod. NRL back in a major way, so we get some grouse games to sink the teeth into this weekend. I'll run you through each one of them quickly, a couple of stats that caught my attention, and then my best bets for this game. First one, Raiders Knights. The Knights, they've won 6 of their past 8 games against the Raiders, and they've won their last 6 straight at home. McDonald Jones Stadium, that's turned into a real fortress for them, so I'll be backing the Knights to get the chockies. And then Greg Marju, he's scored 15 tries in his last 14 games, so Knights into Marju tonight for me to hopefully get the weekend started on a winning note at $2.35. Warriors versus Sharkies. Tune in, Wars fans. These stats, they are great for us. The Warriors have won our past 5 games at Go Media. Like I mentioned earlier, the Sharks, they've also lost their opening round 1 game in 9 of the last 10 seasons. So I've never been more certain of a Warriors win. Jump on them head to head. Warriors winger, DWZ, the flying mullet, he scored 24 tries in his last 19 NRL games. If he was healthier last year, he would have got the NRL NRL top try scorer award. No doubt about that. So Warriors into DWZ, that is always a safe bet. And I was interested to see Kirk Capewell paying $5.50 to dot down on debut. Keep an eye on that option. Storm versus Panthers, like I said, Storm haven't lost the round one game since 2001. Incredibly confident when they start the season. The Panthers, they've only won one of their 8 games at Amy Park as well. So Melbourne historically hasn't been a happy hunting ground for the lads from the foot of the mountain. Storm winger Xavier Coates, he scored 23 tries in his 18 games at home as well. So he loves a meaty in front of his adoring fans. I'm going to tip the Panthers here. Like I said, Munster, he's 50-50. No Nelson Asafa Solomona. So I'll go the Panthers to get the dub, but I'll chuck in Coates to score and salute for the fans. A nice little combo there. Finns versus Cowboys. The Cowboys, they've actually won 4 of their last 5 games at Suncorp Stadium. This one being played at Suncorp, not in Redcliffe. Jermaine Isaac, he scored 7 tries in his last 8 games at Suncorp as well. But for some reason, I really like the Finns in this game. They've formed a pretty strong squad. No Tom Gilbert, but they've still got guys like Flegler, Herbie Farnworth and co. Plenty of strike across the paddock. The hammer, say less. You got to chuck him in and around your bet slips as well. So I'll be jumping on the Finns to get the win, pull off the upset much like they did in round 1 last year. Titans taking on the Dragons. The Titans have won 4 of their last 6 games against the Drags, and the Dragons, they've lost their last 4 straight games in the Gold Coast. Titans winger Olofiana Khan Pereira, he scored 20 tries last year. He's always dangerous, a genuine flyer. And then you got Ravalawa on the sting for the Red V. He scored 15 tries in his last 12 NRL games. So I like the Titans here to get the chockies into AKP and Ravalawa. A nice little same game claim for this one. If it misses by 1 leg as a 3-leg same game multi, you'll get your money back up to $50 as a bonus bet. So pencil that one in. And then finally, you got the Eels taking on the Doggies. The Eels, they've won 7 of their past 8 games against the Dogs. The Dogs, they've only won 2 of their last 15 games at CommBank as well. So they hate travelling there. Gutho, he scored 9 tries in his last 10 against the Dogs. And Dylan Brown, it's also his 100th game as well. So the lads will be fired up, looking to salute for Dillbags. Josh Curran, noticed he's on the Remu as well. Jalen Salmon, Ricky Stewart's mate, the weak gutted dog, he gets the start there, which I'm completely off. I want to see Kaza starting in the 13 jersey. So for me, I'm all chips in on the Eels to get the chocolates, and I'm going to chuck in Gutho to salute. If you want to make it a little juicier, you could chuck in Dill Brown instead to cross the chalk on his 100th game as he raises the bat. That would be pretty sentimental stuff. In terms of my multi for this week for your NRL action, oval ball, 4 legs, it can miss by 1, money back as a bonus back. Another of these great promos on offer. I've gone with the Knights, Wars, Titans and Eels all head to head, as simple as that, paying $4.56. Some pretty juicy odds there, I thought. Then I've gone for an Ivan Leary option because, of course, people, you all tune in, you want something juicy. Well, here it is. She's called the 4-piece Wicked Wing combo, gone with Greg Marju, Xavier Coates, Mikaele Ravalawa, and Montoya the Destroyer, all to salute. I think Mars is a great shout. There's going to be a bit of attack coming his way with Lukey Met, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Not going to be a shortage of Steadin down that side. So I'm predicting Montoya to cross the chalk and score 4 points of the best. Combo those up into a multi, $27.24. How good is that? And then, of course, the Silly Talk Sports boost for this week, and you will find this in the NRL section on your main screen of the app or the website. It's been boosted up from $4.30 of the best. We managed to convince them to make it $5.20. Pretty simple. Warriors win. Lukey Metcalf, he salutes for us up against his old side. He loves scoring against the Sharks. Did so in his 1 game against them last year. I'm backing him to salute, whether it's following up through a line break, his support players always so good, or whether he just gasses them himself. A bit of Metcalf razzle dazzle, turns on the Jets. Catch you later. He's in for a meaty. Some good odds there, so jump on the Surly Talk Sports boost. Really appreciate everyone that jumped on board last year, and let's run it back again in 2024. Super Rugby, oval ball mega multi-buster for this as well. I've gone with Moana to beat the Rebels, $2.35 underdogs at home. Gotta snap that up. I've gone with the Drua plus 7.5 point start, the Blues to beat the Canes in a tight one, and the Chiefs to beat the Reds also in a tight one. Just take those two head to head. So that's Moana, Blues, Chiefs head to head, Drua plus 7.5. That's paying $8.89. I love that. I also don't mind a cheeky little Pacific Power multi, which is Moana into the Fijian draw. That's paying $6.35. Two upsets that I think could genuinely happen in this weekend's action. For your basketball, NBA tipped out winners galore last week. I'm actually 11 from 12 when it comes to your NBA punting over the last 2 weeks. So I'm on a real heater, even tipped out the Breakers in that first play-in game to get the dub at some juicy odds. So for tomorrow, not as many games on offer as there has been in the past few weeks, but I like the Magic to beat the Wizards at $1.34. I like the Clippers to right their wrongs and get a win over the Rockets. Hopefully they don't shit the bed in the fourth quarter like they have been lately at $1.36. I like the Cavs to beat the Hawks at $1.76. And then I also like the Thunder to beat the Trailblazers at $1.15 to round us out. So jump on board. Finally, boxing, of course, Joseph Parker, he's won my heart and he's also won my head. He's $2.87. The bookies, they clearly didn't learn their lesson after he bet the Bronze Bomber, so I'll be jumping on him head to head, and I also like him for that points and decision market in your method of victory, paying $4.50. Get on board there. I don't think he'll knock him out. Zhang's a big bopper, so if this goes the distance, Parker to pick him apart and get the win. Joshua versus Ngannou, mentioned before, I think this one could go either way, but I really like the to be knocked down option, Joshua to be dropped at $3.60. If you can knock down Fury, you can knock down Joshua, so get on that one. Joshua by points or decision, $5.50, looking juicy too. Again, similar method of thinking. If you can go the distance with Fury, you can go the distance with Joshua, so pretty juicy there. If you think Ngannou, that wasn't a fluke, and he can back that up. Bet of the week, I'm 4 from 5 in these now. Just the one loss over 5 weeks. That's a pretty good stretch. Last week I had the Chiefs into Canes as a bit of a multi. The Kiwi doubleheader, she saluted. Tick, tick. So this week I'm going similar method, but in the NRL I'm going Warriors into Para. $2.17 if you multi those up. Surely that salutes. And then for your Magic multi, I'm 2 from 5 on these now. Last week we had a dub, actually coming in on great form. So fingers crossed your eardrums have been primed and you've been tuning in. I had the Chiefs to win, and then both of those league games in Vegas to finish as a 1-12 margin. Great stuff there. So this week I'm going a head-to-head trifecta. Warriors, Finns for the upset against the Cowboys, and then the Moana to also pull off the upset, paying $9.40. That's juicy stuff, a real lip licker for me. As always, gamble responsibly, but shout out to the TAB, really appreciate their support for getting behind Surly Talk Sport. Time now for your Better Bear Battler of the Week before I call it a day and send you on your merry way. Brought to you, of course, by the best bear in all of the land, Better Bear. Twist off the cap and wrap your lips around an ice-cold Darren Frothier while you watch the footy. Or if you're a real rooster, crack one open, 11 a.m. Saturday morning, beers and biffs. Joseph Parker, there really is no better combination. Zero carbs, she's a great day session beer, won't leave you feeling bloated. So shout out to the legends at Better Bear. Get around them. They've been supporting us, so head into your local liquor store, grab yourself a box. It comes in the cans or the bottles too, so you got both options. No excuses not to rip into a couple this weekend. And this week's Better Bear Battler of the Week, it was a close call between the mate at the TAB, Carl Tiley, with that hole-in-one, and then the great man, Lukey Brooks. But I decided to go with Brooksy, who of course scored a try, almost had a double, unfortunately dropped it over the line, which almost makes him even more of a battler. He had a line break assist, 2 tackle breaks, should have had a try assist if Tommy Turbo wasn't held up, 24 tackles tackles made, and just the 2 misses. He's gone from being gifted a barbecue at the Tigers without the gas bottle in his final game, the ultimate insult, into playing one of the great debuts at his new club in Manly. Many people calling for him to wear the 6 jersey in Origin. I definitely think that's a step too far, and no doubt they're taking the piss a little there. But Lukey Brooks, one of the great turnarounds, so shout out to you, mate. You love to see it. A bloke that's copped so much shit throughout his career, turning rocks into diamonds. Good on your horse, and hopefully it's a sign of what is set to be a big 2024 for him. That combination he's got with Ben Travojevic looks like they're onto a real winner there, so go well, Brooksy lad. Big things to come. Fingers crossed though, April 13th against the Wars, he just can't handle the pressure at Mount Smart and doesn't turn it on. But you're our Better Be Better of the Week this week, horse, so hopefully you enjoy a few tins yourself. The Manly girls, they got the weekend off after trekking back from Vegas, so no doubt he'll be cracking into a few Darren Frothiers, and good on you, lad. Right, that's us for another episode of Surly Talk Sport. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and cheers for tuning in. A huge weekend, so much to tuck into this weekend. The Wars, you got the Super Rugby, the boxing, she's all go. NBA, UFC cards as well. She's set to be a humdinger, a real barnstormer, so hopefully you enjoy it. Shout out to the TAB and Better Bear for getting around me and supporting the podcast. Shout out as well to Dynasty Sport. Remember that giveaway drawn tonight. She's not too late if you're listening on your Thursday to get to tagging your mates again. It only boosts your chances of winning. Chuck it up on your story. That gets you an extra entry as well. If you're heading along tomorrow night to the Fortress, then I'll see you there and up the mighty Wars. Otherwise, go well, stay safe, and enjoy all the sport. How good.